Hi, glad to see you on my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's important to me. Have a good view. On March 22, 1945, troops of the Soviet 5th Shock Army and 8th Guards Army of the 1st Belarusian Front began a joint operation to expand the bridgehead on the west bank of the Oder near the town of Kustrin. As a result of the operation, they managed to squeeze the German troops, increase the bridgehead, and, joining west of Kustrin, encircle the city with its garrison. The Soviet troops suffered significant losses in personnel and equipment, but were able to achieve their objectives, albeit not in full. However, the German command was not going to put up with the situation. The Wehrmacht command hastily transferred to Kustrin parts of the 20th and 25th Panzer Grenadier divisions, which undertook a number of counterattacks to regain lost positions. They managed to slightly displace the Soviet 47th Guards Rifle Division and reoccupy the military town on the outskirts of Kustrin, after which this section of the front was in a precarious balance for several days. The Soviet command, convinced of the strength of the German defenses, stopped offensive attempts, ordering the troops on the bridgehead to go on the defensive, after which the divisions began to consolidate on the achieved lines and prepare for possible enemy counterattacks. At the same time, the German command planned to launch a new counterattack aimed at de-blockade of Kustrin to participate in, which accelerated the transfer of several tank formations to the Oder front. In addition to the 20th and 25th Panzer Grenadier divisions already in place, as well as the Panzer Division Müncheberg, from the area of Stettin to the bridgehead pulled up the division Grenadiers of the Führer, 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion, an improvised battle group with a rather unusual name, 1001 Knights. In anticipation of possible German attacks from March 24 to March 26, the Soviet troops on the bridgehead at Kustrin intensively strengthened their positions, burrowed into the ground, equipped engineering barriers, mined the terrain, placed Fog-2 high-explosive flamethrowers, shot landmarks, and conducted reconnaissance. Soon, the Soviet and German tankers would switch roles. The Germans would have the dubious luck of attacking through minefields in unfamiliar open terrain and encountering unsuppressed anti-tank defenses. The forces of the sides' data on the availability of armored vehicles in the German formations are fragmentary, but it is known that in the Panzer Division Müncheberg on March 25th, there were only about 20-25 tanks and self-propelled guns, including up to 10 combat-ready Panthers, 7 Tigers, 4 Paz Kampfbusser 4, and 2 self-propelled guns. The division's reconnaissance company had 8 heavy gun armored vehicles, 4 each SDKF's .234-1 and SDKF's .234-4 with 20mm and 75mm guns, respectively. To the last 3 Stu-G3 assault guns remaining in the 20th Panzer Grenadier Division, 20P KPW-4 and 20 Ps-475. Tank fighters arrived at the end of February and the first half of March, which, according to the available data, went to the 8th Tank Battalion and were distributed approximately equally among its 3 companies. The division's anti-tank and reconnaissance battalions were left with virtually no armored vehicles, while the artillery regiment had 12 150mm and 6 105mm howitzers. According to Army Group Vistula headquarters, on March 17th, the 76th and 90th Panzer Grenadier regiments of the 20th Panzer Grenadier Division numbered 3 medium battalions of 300 to 400 men and 5 exhausted battalions of 200 to 300 men. Considering that on March 22, 23, the division actively counterattacked the Soviet units, suffering losses in men and equipment, for example. On March 25th, all available in the division, PSKPFW-4, were in repair. We can only assume how many combat-ready vehicles remained in the 20th Panzer Grenadier Division on the morning of March 27. This number, in any case, did not exceed 20 self-propelled guns, 3 Wirbelwind anti-aircraft tanks, and perhaps a few repaired PSKPFW-4. As of mid-February, the 5th Tank Battalion of the 25th Panzer Grenadier Division had only 7 combat-ready Panthers, 7 were listed in short-term repair, and 3 combat-ready Paz 475, 1 in repair. In addition, the battalion headquarters had 2 mobile wagon anti-aircraft tanks. The 25th Anti-Tank Battalion had 18 combat-ready Stug 3s, 2 in repair, and 2 combat-ready Ps 475, 3 in repair. The 35th and 109th Panzer Grenadier Regiments each had 2 4-man battalions, one of which was armored, meaning it had armored vehicles. The 2 artillery regiment divisions had 9 105mm and 6 150mm howitzers. The division's reconnaissance battalion had no armored vehicles, was rather weak, and consisted of only 2 companies on Kubelwagen. By the end of February, the division received 10 Panthers, 20 Stug 3s, and 22 Ps 475 for replenishment. By mid-March, the 25th Panzer Grenadier Division had 32 Panthers, 1 Ps KP 884, 2 Mobilwagen, 20 Ps 475, and 30 Stugi 3. The division, together with the 20th Panzer Grenadier Division on March 22nd and 23, struck Soviet units on the bridgehead at Kustrin, and it is not known exactly how many vehicles were left in it by the beginning of the counterattack. According to the data of the headquarters of Army Group Vistula, on March 25th, the division had 36 combat-ready tanks and self-propelled units, and we can only assume that on the morning of March 27th, the division could have about 40 armored units. The Führer's Grenadier Division, which had suffered losses during the fighting in eastern Pomerania Operation Solstice, by the end of February 1945 was slightly replenished with armored vehicles, and at the beginning of March had about 80 tanks and self-propelled vehicles, while by the end of the month the division had no more than 40 combat-ready vehicles. The arrival of the division on the Oder front went unnoticed by Soviet intelligence, and its presence became known only on March 28th, after the study of soldiers' books recovered from the killed crew members of tanks shot down northeast of Goltzow. However, in Soviet intelligence reports, it passed as the Division Great Germany. According to Soviet estimates, the division had up to 40 tanks and 60 APCs, which is almost identical to German figures. The 1st Tank Battalion of the division's 101st Tank Regiment changed its structure in March 1945 and now had 5 companies. Previously, the battalion had 4 companies, 3 of which had Panthers, and the 4th company had a mix of Stu G3 and Paz 475 self-propelled vehicles. On March 1st, the 1st company had 14 Stug 4 assault guns. The 2nd company had a mix of Paz KPIW Torn 4 tanks, Paz 475 self-propelled guns, and Stuki 4s. The 3rd company received 10 Jagd Panther tank fighters, and the 4th and 5th companies had 13 and 14 Panthers, respectively. The 2nd Battalion of the 101st TP had motorized infantry with 62 Sedwek KFs, 251 APCs. The Führer Grenadier Division, as before, was supported by the 911th Assault Gun Brigade, 3 batteries of which had 20 Stug 3 OSFG assault guns, and the 4th battery had grenadiers to escort the guns on the battlefield. The division's 99th Panzer Grenadier Regiment included 2 5-company battalions, as well as a sapper company and a heavy infantry gun company. The mixed battalion of the division combined 3 companies: reconnaissance, anti-tank, and heavy self-propelled infantry gun company. The reconnaissance company had 12 SE Kevstiars toward 50 light APCs and 9 STE Kevstiar 234 heavy armored vehicles, including 4 SE Kevsid 234 4s with 75mm guns. The anti-tank company had no materiel, and the infantry gun company had 4 150mm Grill self-propelled guns. The Führer Grenadier Division, of all the German mechanized formations at Kustrin, was the only one with self-propelled artillery. The 1st Division of the 124th Art Regiment had a battery of 6 Vespa self-propelled guns and 2 batteries with 11 Humvees, while the 2nd and 3rd Divisions each had 12 towed 105mm and a 150mm howitzers. The mixed anti-aircraft battalion had 11 888mm anti-aircraft guns, 9 37mm and 18 20mm anti-aircraft guns. The 101 Night Battle Group consisted of 3 detachments with rather original names. The 1st detachment, with the code name Zuleika, consisted of the 560th Anti-Tank Battalion of the SS Special Purpose, in the headquarters, and 3 companies which had 44 Hetzer self-propelled vehicles, and the 4th company had 8 Stug 3 assault guns, transferred from the 27th SS Volunteer Division Langemarck. Accompanying the self-propelled guns on the battlefield was a company of parachutists from the 600th SS Parachute Battalion. The second unit, called Harem, was formed from the reconnaissance battalion Speer, which was formed from paramilitary members of the RAD, Reichsarbeitsdienst. The battalion consisted of two companies, motorcycle and armored vehicles. The battalion was armed with several armored vehicles and half-track tractors with SEDKEF 7-1 20mm counters, sunk SEDKEF 7-1 guns, as well as an anti-tank platoon. The 3rd detachment of the battle group, with a total strength of 390 men, called Sultan, was formed from 3 infantry companies of the 2nd Marching Regiment, which was created to protect the launchers of missiles FAU-2, and to which only especially distinguished and decorated soldiers were selected. The 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion was rearmed with Royal Tigers by March 1945, with the battalion receiving only 31 tanks instead of the standard 45 vehicles, as well as 4 Flak PIS-4 Wirbelwind anti-aircraft tanks. By March 20th, the battalion arrived at the Dolgelin railway station, where a month later, the Royal Tigers of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion still had to beat up the Soviet tankers. Then, on April 17, 1945, at Dolgelin Station, the advancing tankers of the 1st Guards Tank Brigade of the 8th Guards Mechanized Corps, attacking 6 Royal Tigers of the 2nd Company of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion, lost 8 T-34-85s burned and 14 more hit, and the 400th Guards Self-Propelled Artillery Regiment lost 3 Su-85s or Su-100s burned. The tankers of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion claimed to have destroyed 11 Soviet tanks in that battle. From Dolgelin Station, the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion arrived to Sachsendorf, from where, on the night of March 24th, the battalion's tanks took part in a counterattack on the positions of the Soviet 74th Guards Rifle Division in the area of Haitnau, Rachtok. The German infantry only broke into the first trench and occupied several buildings near Rachtok, while the Royal Tigers were stopped by numerous minefields and came under heavy fire from Soviet artillery. They suffered no casualties, but many vehicles had damaged undercarriage or gun barrels. 3 tank commanders were killed in the attack, as usual looking out of the commander's turrets. Among those killed was veteran battalion platoon leader Ernst Glago. The remaining vehicles of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion withdrew to Hachenau and Alt-Tuaband. All damaged tanks were later evacuated from the battlefield and the battalion redeployed to Goltzow. In addition, during this battle, there was a conflict between the commander of the 3rd Company of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion, Obersturmführer Friedel Schienhofen, and the commander, Sturmbannführer Kurt Hartranft, which started because Schienhofen doubted the correctness of the commander's actions and the adequacy of his orders, and then threatened him with a pistol. It is not known how the conflict would have ended if not for the Soviet artillery men who fired a volley at a cluster of German vehicles. As a result, Schienhofen received a shrapnel wound to the head, and that was the end of the incident. One of the units involved in repelling this attack was the 372nd IPTAP 15 76mm guns, whose gun crews, after losing 6 guns broken during the battle, claimed to have burned 5 enemy tanks and hit 2 self-propelled guns. Artillerymen of the 157th Guards Artillery Regiment and the 82nd Guards Independent Fighter Anti-Tank Division of the 74th Guards Rifle Division said that while repelling the German attack, they burned 1 tank and 3 more tanks and 1 self-propelled gun were hit. According to the 1200th SAP, whose Su-76 self-propelled vehicles were in ambushes on the outskirts of Ratstock and Haitnau, the enemy attacked with 19 tanks and up to a battalion of infantry, but in this battle, the Su-76 did not engage in firefights with the Royal Tigers, firing only at enemy infantry, and therefore suffered no losses. Taking into account that all the tank units planned to participate in the German counterattack, except for the 1001 Knights battle group, had already fought before, in which some part of their armored vehicles was probably damaged and disabled, and also taking into account the lack of accurate data on the availability of armored vehicles on the morning of March 27, it is difficult to indicate the exact number of enemy tanks and self-propelled units that took part in the counterattack. On the basis of the available data, we can only make a presumptive conclusion that up to 200 tanks and self-propelled guns could have taken part in the battles of March 27-28 on the German side. According to the plans of the German command, from the Chechen area in the general direction to Genschmar on the Soviet positions, struck parts of the division Müncheberg and Combat Group 1001 Knight, which were to break through the defense of the 60th Guards Rifle Division to go to the Oder and hit the rear of the 5th Shock Army units located on the bridgehead. The division Grenadiers of the Führer from the area north of Goltzow was striking northeast at the positions of the 295th Sonde. After breaking through the Soviet defenses, the division was to split and strike in a northerly direction to join east of Genschmar with parts of the Müncheberg. At the same time, the other part of the division by a blow to the southeast was to go to Altblain to join the 20th Panzergrenadier Division. From the area of Goltzow and Military Town, parts of the 20th and 25th Panzergrenadier Divisions and the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion struck. The 76th Panzergrenadier Regiment and the 20th Panzergrenadier Division were to break through the defenses of the 295th SD in the direction of Tannenhof and at Altblain to turn to the suburbs of Küstrin. In the general direction to Gorgast, on the south bank of the River Strom, on the positions of the 47th Guards, Rifle Division struck parts of the 90th Panzergrenadier Regiment and the 20th Panzergrenadier Division and the 1st and 2nd Companies of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion and units of the 25th Panzergrenadier Division, together with the 3rd Company of the 502nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion, attacked in a straight line along the railroad line Military Town, Gorgast Station. After the capture of Gorgast and Monchnov, the units of the 25th Panzergrenadier Division were to further break through to the Kitz suburb of Küstrin. Thus, the main enemy of the four previously shattered mechanized formations, a battle group and an incomplete battalion of Royal Tigers, became three equally shattered Soviet rifle divisions with reinforcements, which bore the brunt of the defensive fighting on March 27-28. On March 27, in the northern part of the Soviet bridgehead were defending parts of the 32nd Rifle Corps of the 5th Shock Army. On the right flank of the Corps, from the Alta Oder to Lake Genschmerer Sea, the 60th Guards Rifle Division was on the defense, which numbered 4,605 men. In rifle companies, there were 20-30 men each. The 132nd Guards Artillery Regiment of the division had 21 76mm ZIS-3 guns and 8 122mm M30 howitzers. The rifle regiments had 24 45mm guns, 10 76mm regimental guns, 34 82mm and 12 120mm mortars. The 65th Guards Independent Self-Propelled Artillery Division had 12 Su-76 self-propelled guns. In addition, the division was supported by the 275th Guards Fighter Anti-Tank Artillery Regiment with 23 57mm ZS-2 guns, the 1135th Light Artillery Regiment with 22 76mm guns, and two divisions of the 401th and 415th Mortar Regiments with a total of 29 120mm mortars. Of the armored vehicles in the defense strip of the 60th Guards Rifle Division had 9 IS-2 heavy tanks of the 89th Guards Heavy Tank Regiment. From Lake Genschmarer Sea to the River Strom occupied the defense of the 295th SD, which had 4,812 men in companies of 20-25 men. We could not find data on the availability of artillery in the division as of March 26th, but as of March 1st, the 295th SD had 12 122mm howitzers, 18 76mm divisional, and 10 76mm regimental guns, 32 45mm guns, 50 82mm, and 15 120mm mortars. The 333rd Independent Self-Propelled Artillery Division of the 295th SD had 11 Su-76 self-propelled guns as of March 26th. The division was reinforced with guns of the 277th Guards Fighter Anti-Tank Artillery Regiment 21, 76mm ZS-3, 1137th Light Artillery Regiment 25, 76mm ZS-3, and heavy self-propelled vehicles of the 396th TZAP-10 ISU-152. In the rear of the division took positions of the 278th Guards Fighter Anti-Tank Artillery Regiment, 22 76mm guns. South of the River Strom, on the section Gorgast, Neutuhaband, Alt-Tuhaband, Rostock occupied the defense of the units of the 4th and 8th Guards Army. On the right flank of the corps from the southern bank of the River Strom to the station, Goltzow was defended by the 47th Guards Rifle Division. The number of personnel of the division on March 26 could not be found. It is only known that the average manning of rifle companies of the 47th Guards Rifle Division was at the level of 45 people. And after the end of fighting on March 31st, the number of personnel of the 47th Guards Rifle Division was 4,307 people. In the battles of March 22-25, the division had 208 killed and 446 wounded. During the same period, the division claimed to have destroyed 4 Tigers, 8 Panthers, and hit 4 more tanks. The 99th Artillery Regiment and 55th OIPIT of the division had 20 76mm guns and 13 122mm howitzers. The rifle regiments had 8 45mm guns and 4 regimental 76mm guns. The division was reinforced by guns of the 1187th IPTAP 24 76mm by S3, 182nd Lauber 27 76mm S3, and 33 120mm mortars of the 565th Minpolk. Of the armored vehicles, there were 15 Su-76 of the 10087th SAP west of Gorgast, 3 ISU-152 of the 394th GV Totia SAP northwest of Gorgast. And in the area, Gorgast, Manchnov were 43 T-3485 of the 65th Tank Brigade, as well as the 12th Motorized Rifle Brigade with 2,531 men. On the outskirts of Gorgast, took up positions of 2 tank battalions of 25 tanks of the 65th Tank Brigade, and west of Manchnov defended the 3rd Battalion of 18 tanks of the brigade. Extensive minefields, actively laid in front of the positions of the 47th Guards Rifle Division, numbered 11,533 anti-tank mines on March 25th. On the left flank of the 47th Guards Rifle Division from Alt-Tuhaband to Ratstock was defended by the 57th Guards Rifle Division. The division's 128th Gov Art Regiment and 64th Gov YPTD had 26 76mm guns and 16 122mm howitzers. The division's rifle regiments had 5 45mm guns, 4 76mm regimental guns, 35 82mm and 14 120mm mortars. The positions of the 57th Guards Rifle Division were reinforced with guns of the 372nd UPTAP, 16 76mm guns, 12 Flinkskeet 2nd Gap, 27 122mm howitzers, and 60 120mm mortars of the 416th and 419th MINP. Of the armored vehicles in the division's defense line, there were 8 IS-2 tanks of the 34th Guards Heavy Tank Regiment, occupying the defense 800 meters east of Alt-Tuhabanda. And behind the division's fighting order, in the woods east of Ratstock, there were 12 T-3485s of the 20th Ankova Brigade. In addition to artillery attached directly to the rifle divisions, the infantry could count on the support of Corps and Army artillery groups, which had guns up to and including 203mm caliber.